It's because school started up.
No, you know why? It's because we didn't meet in August. We went for fried chicken.
Oh.
Right. So we had like a 10-minute chat about the book, and then we just kept on eating. Anyways, welcome guys. Welcome back. It's been a while. It's actually not number 11. It's number 13. It just the numbers are weird here. Welcome. We're talking about this book tonight, and this is Karen's pick. It is such a beautiful cover. Holy crap! Really good book as well. But before we start, Amanda.
Yes.
How have you been?
Good. Just had my first round of parent-teacher conferences today, and then doing them tomorrow. And you know what? This year has been the smoothest year startup so far. So knock on wood, things have been going very well. I don't want to jinx it, but things have been going quite well at school, so I'm really happy.
Nice. How are the BCMEAs?
Oh my gosh.
Stressful?
No, actually, you know what? The entire weekend is pretty much spent like catching up with people that I graduated with, and then reconnecting with certain people, and also networking with some of those vendors, like the people from other music stores, the people who do traveling, like instruments, stuff like that. So that's kind of just what the entire weekend is about. On the plus side, I booked myself a massage, and it was great.
Nice.
It was awesome. I neglected to go to any party. I literally went to massage and then went back to my room and just laid down. It was great.
Here's the thing. The thing is always, people always say like, they're like, oh, as you get older, you get more like kind of boring. I was like, that's not boring. Massages are great. Sleeping enough is amazing.
They're actually.
Also, all of that networking and catching up with friends is really exhausting.
Yeah. Like, did you know Steven Capaldo? He's back in Victoria, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so excited. It was great to see him. It was amazing prof that I had. So
yeah.
Karen, how have you been?
Doing all right. I'm kind of getting over a cold, but that's okay because it's the first of the season, and it's usually like second week of October that I always get it. So it's like right on time. My brain is in 3 different spots right now. It's in current day Halloween mode. It's a head for winter concert. And then it's in November for National Novel Writing Month, and I'm planning my novel that I'm going to be writing.
Ooh, NaNoWriMo!
That's a woo. So like my brain's just like scattered 4 ways to Sunday. So
we'll talk about that after.
Yeah. Okay.
But like just for people who might be watching later, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, and it's always November, right?
Yeah.
And it's 50,000 words.
50,000 words you write in a month, and I do it down to like you write X number of words on a work day and X number of words on the weekend, so that it's like you basically get up to the level that you need to get to. And most of the time I'm ahead because I have that goal.
Yeah.
But like a work day is write 600 words. Well, I can write 620 minutes. So if I write for half hour, I write, 300 more. So it's just
So kids, you better be taking notes. This is how you like crush NaNoWriMo. Take notes.
I've got it down to an art. I think this is year 7 for me. So
this is like first theses and papers in university too.
Yeah, basically. But this is like unedited. This is just like word vomit.
That's true. It's just like
I don't have to cite anything and do research. It's a little bit of research.
Chicago style.
It's not quite the same. And awesome. Matt, how are you?
I'm good. You know what? Like, I've had a pretty good couple of months. I have a bunch of new students, and it's been really interesting. Like, I keep on forgetting, like, every single time it's like a new face, and you're like, oh, I can just take my old lesson. Oh, wait, no, I can't take my old lesson plans. I got to just scrap it all and do it all over again. So it's been nice to be challenged. I have a couple of kids who I don't think they're autistic or anything. They just seem to learn a little bit slower. And they require me to kind of repeat things a couple more times than normal. But that's great because I was like, oh, this is amazing because I get to work with kids. And albeit maybe their timelines are a little bit like longer than other people, they still get there at some point. And it's super fun because I'm getting these kids and they're really gung-ho about practicing, which is very rare. So and I was just like, this is great. Like I was and you know, having to constantly remind them like not to compare with their friends, right? And to tell them that they're unique and they're special in their own way, and that even though yes, their friends get things much more quickly than they do, the fact that they have like diligence and they have hard work, they're gonna come out on top in the end, and they'll be fine. And it's been really fun to do that. Like I was scared that like I lost a couple of students at the end of August because they were like finished grade 10 piano, and I was like, oh, like you know, I'm gonna have to like maybe like tighten my my pockets a little bit and stuff, and it turned out okay, and it's been a fun challenge so far. We'll see. I'm trying to get all these kids prepped for like a Christmas concert, so we'll see. But everyone seems to be gung ho, and I haven't gotten sick yet, so
lucky you.
I don't know.
Well, like usually what happens is like I'll sometimes meet these kids at the door and I'll see them like back in the car. See you next week. I won't even let them come in my place. No.
Actually, yeah.
Because like, I was just like, I used to not be sick, get sick at all, but I was like, okay, you know what, Matthew, you're like in your like, you know, early 30s. You're gonna get sick and you have to protect yourself.
But here's the other thing, Kate, you're dealing with an instrument where your hands that like you can sneeze on, you can like wipe faces on.
It's the wipe. It's this,
and it's like all over the keys, and then you're like sanitizing them every time. No, no.
Yeah.
Not worry.
But
I want to pick his nose and then hand me a book. I'm like,
oh yeah, no,
no, please go away.
But like, I mean, like what Karen said, like it's that time of year, right?
It is, yeah.
We're starting to spend more time inside, and so we just kind of like stew together in a little soup.
In the recycled air, it's lovely.
Yeah. So like, knock on wood, like we'll last until like Christmas, and then we'll be fine. So.
Oh, Christmas.
All right, so we're gonna talk about this book now. For those of you who haven't read it, this is not a fictional book. It is, and the way that we would normally talk about, I guess, fiction doesn't really work with this book. So the girls and I, we chatted about this a little bit before, and we decided that it actually makes more sense to kind of do it in chronological order and in parts. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about Alma, the main character, while she's single before she meets Gustav Mahler. And then we're going to talk about her when she's a married woman with her family and her children. And then we're going to talk about her when she and her husband moved to New York, which is at the tail end of the book. So that's kind of how we're going to be doing it. So we'll talk about kind of like the characters that are in those time frames. And then we'll talk about like kind of like the history and the characters itself. But essentially, I mean, this book is all about music. So, I mean, you know, music as a main theme is definitely a main theme. Like, so we don't even have to like really talk about that at the end. But why don't we just start at the very, very beginning? I remember when we were chatting in the group chat, Amanda and I, we were having issues with Alma at the very beginning because we thought she was just, it was just like, she was so whiny.
Should we do sort of like a quick, like, what is this book about?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So this follows Alma Mahler, the wife of the famed Gustav Mahler, and she was a very proficient musician, and she was really interested in composing when she was very young. And then, of course, she reached the age where she was marriageable, and it was like, well, you know, time to put all of your hobbies aside because now you need to be a wife. You need to be a grown-up, and that's what women do. And it's sort of like her struggles with wanting to continue to keep composing and stay with music while also trying to be a wife and a mother, and especially a wife to somebody that's so renowned for composing, is that there's lots of conflict in that.
And the fact that he's so dedicated to his composing.
Yes.
Which was one of her big struggles.
Yeah. So this is a historical fiction.
Yeah. And the thing was, I actually had a chance to listen to some of her music, and it is really good. It is actually really, really good. The idea is like, this is a relatively wealthy girl, relatively educated girl, in a sense that at that time, like, you know, you were like a Renaissance woman, right? You had to be able to do all these things and stuff. And she was but proficient. She was a really good pianist. She had a knack for composing. And on top of that, she was quite good looking. So like, it wasn't that she didn't have a line of people like wanting to marry her and woo her. Like she did. And the first part of the book, and even like when she's married, like you still see glimpses of her being like, wow, I'm still gorgeous. I'm still wanted, right? And that actually plays, like when you're reading about her, it plays into her insecurities about like, oh, am I just like a flippant, aristocratic, like beautiful girl that has nothing to give to the world? Or can I be an artist? Can I become a composer just like all the men that are out there? Like, why can't women be the way that men?
There's a lot of questions about what an artist needs to be an artist. So it's just, the kind of lifestyle that you need to have, the type of mind frame that you need to have, just how to be an artist, really.
And then her whole thing, and then her whole thing with comparing herself to those two sisters who
the Conrad sisters.
Yeah, the Conrad sisters who were encouraged to go to college and become like a sculptor and become all this, and nobody's forcing a man down your throat. How come they're allowed to do all this stuff and I can't? Why are my parents pushing me to get married?
But there was also like a lot of like commentary on that though, because on the one hand, these two sisters are celebrated, but on the other hand, they're always being labeled as the third sex. Right. So even though like the mother is like, hey, these girls are amazing, she's behind her back saying like, oh, beware of the third sex. Beware, like everyone's always talking about that because they're single, they're unmarriageable, right? There must be something wrong with them, right? Like, and because of that, like, especially when you're reading the book, you're led to believe that during this time, women who were aspiring to be something like other than like a mother or whatever were considered like unsexable, because they were just not normal women. So therefore, you didn't want anything to do with them. But they're brilliant, but they weren't normal.
She also grew up with her mother, who wasn't her mother trained to be
opera singer.
She was an opera singer.
But she gave it up. She married an artist, and then decided to settle down and give up to being an opera singer. So she sees these two ways of life.
Yeah, but then then her husband passed away and she married another artist.
Yes.
Directly below him. And he
was he like
Carl worked with the father.
Yeah.
I think he was his like apprentice or something. And she's like, oh, my husband's dead.
Hey, you're handsome.
Hey, you're
yeah.
I mean that was I can't even think of the word. I'm so tired. That was fleshed out in the end.
Yeah. So at the very beginning, what you know is it his name Emil Schindler?
Emil.
So he is like the brilliant father that Alma has growing up, right? He's just incredibly brilliant, like just world-renowned, famous artist, and he passes away like just randomly because of appendicitis. And then the mother settles down with this other artist who, like, as we're like reading through the book, we see it through Alma's eyes. Like, she sees this stepfather as inadequate. Like, he's not as good, always trying to pander and trying to make friends with all these famous people. Right? And then she's always like, how do I have to deal with this? Like, my father was so much better, right? But we're led to believe at the very beginning that the reason why the mother had to be prudent was because Alma's father was not good with money at all. He was always like always dodging loans and stuff, didn't know how to handle it, right? So that's why when she married Carl, and Carl was relatively good with money, it actually worked out because it was a safety net for the mother. But unfortunately, Alma didn't see it like that because she revered her father, right? She didn't realize that was that might be one of the issues with marrying an artist, is that they don't understand finances as well. And we see that later on. Right, with
Alma's own marriage,
but I think like when I was reading the beginning of the book, I kept on having to remind myself, yes, I think unfortunately she's kind of whiny, but she's also quite young.
Yes.
Yeah, she had a really good young narrative voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that I wanted that nativity and the innocence of like, oh, I'm in love with him. Oh, I'm in love with him. I'm in love with him. I'm in love with him.
I just want to be romanced and
then that heart crushing moment, right? That heart crushing moment of like, but I love you. I'm just I'm just a passing little fling. Oh, okay. Which I feel like she made up for it afterwards. Like I started really liking Elma when she started kind of starting that romanticism with Alex. And only because Alex was like, yes, you can do it. I support you as a composer. Which I don't know. I don't know. That's when I started liking her. But I agreed with Poon in the beginning where I'm like, she is so whiny.
Yeah. But I think like a part of the reason why, personally for myself, I found it a little bit annoying was because I think while reading about her and her insecurities, I was reminded at that age of my own insecurities through music and stuff. Because like all three of us were going through school 18, 19, right? We were in college at that time, right? And for me personally, it was always a struggle to be like, is this really what I want?
Yeah.
Like, can I be a musician? Am I an artist? Like, and constantly just like doubting myself, second guessing everything that I decided to do. And I think for me, that's why it was so annoying, because I saw myself a little bit in like her like inner torment, right? In a way.
I think the thing with her is that even though it's part of her beginning, it's such a strong theme throughout the entire book. Am I an artist? Am I a composer? Can I do this? Am I a good mother? Can I do this? Am I a good wife? Why does it, that's still there. Like she's never comfortable in her skin. Even at the very end, I'm not sure if she was fully like come into herself as a person, because she's always defined herself as, how does my parents see me? How does Alex see me? How does Mahler see me? How does Klimt see me? She's always being defined by somebody else. So that was one thing that I never kind of understood, but it became less annoying as the book went on.
I think it just, sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
It could be just a product of the time. Just your status is defined by who you are connected with and what you have.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's kind of like,
whatever.
I mean, there still is a little bit of connection here and there, but it's less so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like to add on to that, I think it was the stress of being in those circles, right? Like being in like a circle and a gathering of all these brilliant minds and constantly thinking to yourself that you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right? Like compared to all these people who are doing their art, who are doing these things, I'm not doing the art. Like what is wrong with me? And like I think that was like that inner turmoil. That sucks because on the one hand, she had to be there, but then on the other hand, she was constantly comparing herself with all these greats everywhere around her.
So you've also got some embarrassments, like when she goes to listen to Zemlinsky, Alex, and she's like, "This is the most brilliant piece of music I've ever heard." And was it with him that she stood up and she gave us an ovation? And nobody
else got up.
And so she was sort of embarrassed by society, where they're all like, "Oh, he's like, his music's so derivative," or whatever, right? Like,
and
super
like,
snobby. But she, having not experienced that much, was like, this is intense. I mean, that just speaks to any young person. The first time they've experienced something, they're like, this blows my mind. And then
it gets, everything is better. Like, this blows my mind. Oh, okay. Oh no, this blows my mind. Oh, this blows my mind.
Yeah. And you eventually become a little jaded, which, I mean, that's what it is to be an adult, I guess.
Being jaded is being an adult.
Maybe not jaded, but like a little bit more selective. And
experienced, right? Your experience, you understand what is now better music, because even with when she ended up getting married to Mahler, she's like, this is your most amazing one yet. Oh no, the second was the most amazing, third, blah, blah, and every single time it's like you're continually one-upping yourself.
Yeah.
But, you also think she's seeing all this through rose-colored glass, because these are all men that she's with. So anything they do is going to be incredible. Like, Klimt's stuff was incredible.
Yeah.
She was in love with him. Alex was incredible.
She almost idolizes them, that's always an issue in relationships, whereas it's always imbalanced if the other person is idolizing the other and the other's on the pedestal and they can do no wrong and they're just like basically a god and untouchable. And that sort of is kind of how it starts out with even Zemlinsky and then later into Mueller. And then eventually it kind of morphs a little bit. Equals, but not for a long time.
I do want to kind of like agree with Karen. I think that Young Alma written, very compelling, very well written. Like even her like passionate like love of quote unquote affair with Zemlinsky, right? Everything's just bright and new and shiny, right? She's never felt these things before. Like someone who wants to sit beside me and play my music, like it's just like her entire world is just like all these bright colors. While she's young, right? And even when like she realizes that Gustav Mahler actually like fancies her, right? That becomes like, oh, but like there's a brighter star right over there. Right? I want that like compared to Zemlinsky, Mahler is a god, right? And a god would want me, like, you know, like it was so compelling to understand that she was quite young, right? That all these things were just new, and she was just like experiencing her life all of a sudden, right? Like not just like going to parties and being like, oh, you know, like, you know, I'm like the most pretty girl, but like this god wants me, you know.
So I have a question. Did you go online and look up any pictures of these people?
I looked at Alma.
Yeah, same here.
But right smack in the beginning, so I actually don't remember what she looks like. But I did look up Alma. And then I actually looked up Mahler because I forgot what Mahler looks like.
I remembered Mahler and what he looks like, because he looks like sorry, Mahler, but he looks like someone who would do bike courier services because he's lanky.
Yeah.
And then the thing was like he just rode his bike everywhere and walked everywhere, right? But he was like, even in historical books, he was always considered like super like jacked and healthy, because that was just something.
Isn't he? He's almost vegan.
Yeah.
Almost.
He's vegetarian. Yeah.
Zelensky. Whoops.
Zemlinsky.
I looked up when there was a reference to him being super ugly, and I was like, hold on. I'm like, he can't be that ugly. And you look, and I was okay. He's not ugly. He just has really
weird features.
No, he's got really big features.
Big features.
Like it's a little not angular. That's not quite the right word.
He grows on you. He's sort
of like he's got
last name.
Zemlinsky.
Sorry, I was looking at another one and I'm like, that guy is not right. But you know what? I can see how he could be attractive. Like he was a young dude. And
I would say he would be attractive to her because he's the teacher and he's interested in her work and her.
Yes.
So that's automatically an attraction there.
Yeah. And he was kind of her way out. He was, when mom and dad were like, you need to marry, you cannot do this anymore. This is your little passing fancy. He's like, no. If you marry me, I will support you in your art. I will support you in composition. So he's like, that probably made him even more attractive. It was like, oh, he's actually give me what the two things my heart wants: the love of a man and my love for composition. He's giving me both. So that's probably
to see what her life would have been like had she married him.
Yes, because nothing really happened with him.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the Zemlinsky storyline, because like obviously she fancied him because of all of these things. I think there was genuine feeling for him.
There was,
but he was Jewish, right?
Yes, but that wasn't,
and that was a big problem for the family.
Well, no, it wasn't so much that he was Jewish. It's the fact that he was Jewish and he was poor.
Yeah, it was mostly the poor, but Jewish was an excuse.
Yeah, because Mahler was also Jewish, but he was successful. It's the combination of he's Jewish and he's poor. They don't want to say that it's because he's poor. So they're like, oh,
and
yeah.
he was also looking after, wasn't he looking after his, Zemlinsky was looking after his mother and his sister?
And the sister.
Father and sister.
Oh, father and sister, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was looking after people.
Yeah, so and then
poor and people are dependent on him. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I think like in that sense, like that was the only time like that. Because I mean like the story, like the book talks about how like she is of like an upper crust, right?
Yeah, she's higher.
Like the only time in the book where I realized that she was like that was a problem was two things. Number one, like I found it odd that they were upper crust, but they couldn't afford her a new composition teacher.
I think
to go to college.
No, but they didn't want one because they trusted the old dude because he was like blind, so they know that he wouldn't like feel her up.
Oh,
whether he couldn't afford or wasn't willing.
I think it was that it was a small way to discourage.
Okay.
Yes.
And also like they've got the new baby at home, and her mom and her stepdad are like, we kind of want to get you girls out because you're old and we want to have our own space now.
And they're dealing with Alma's crazy sister who like is in and out of sanatoriums.
Yeah.
She's not crazy. I think she's depressed.
She was depressed.
So her name is Gretel?
Gretel,
yeah.
And I like how throughout the book that relationship changes and Alma's perception of her sister changes. Because at the very beginning, well, like that Gretel is constantly tired or just like low on energy, so you already know that she probably has depression of some sort. And then there's that one part where she fights with her husband to be, and then she tells Alma right before she leaves, I have a gun and it's loaded.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my god, right? But then nothing, like but then that's it, like, right?
Yeah. And she comes back later.
Yeah, she comes back later, and it also, I mean, hey, kudos to the author, because like as a person at that age, right? Yeah, I care about my sister, but at the same time, Gustav wants the bed made, right? So she doesn't even talk about her sister anymore because it's not important.
True, though.
But it makes sense, right? Like based off of that mind at that time of her age.
Yeah, she's so egocentric, right? She's like, oh, but there's this guy, and there's this guy, and there's this guy, and this guy. Oh yeah, and by the way, my sister has a loaded gun. And
I think maybe her problem was that she had so many options that it was, oh, I could do this, oh, I could do this, oh, I could do this. But that's any young person, right? The world is laid out in front of you, and you have all of the possibility, and then you make the decision, and you can't go back.
But yeah, and so much of that was like, did I make the right decision? Ooh, did I? Ooh, did I? Ooh.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking about decisions, so like she's with Zemlinsky, and Zemlinsky goes, like I have talked to director Mahler about this stuff, but he's not presenting any of my work. And Alma goes, well, I'm gonna see him at this party this weekend, and I'm going to root for you, and I'm gonna tell him how awesome your music is, right? So she goes, and she like pretty much confronts Mahler and be like, Alex's music is amazing.
Yeah.
That's how Mahler falls in love with her, right?
So I love your Alma impression.
I'm gonna support my Alex. Okay, yes, that is how Mahler does, but Mahler, like, I don't know.
Honestly, I think they're both so similar in the sense that they are so full of themselves that they're not really looking at what other people are doing. She's so excited about, oh, so-and-so's into me, so-and-so's into me. Am I too pretty? What about my composition? I want to do my composition. Whereas he's just like, music. I have to do this composition. I have to eat properly. He's very particular.
He had the same level of insecurities when he's like, is this good enough? Will this be good enough? Oh, but they tore me apart in Venice. Are they gonna accept me? Like, it's strange because it just seems like the most stressful relationship when you're just like convincing each other you don't suck.
What's most frustrating about their relationship to me was just like they never talked.
Ever
about
okay, but it's because Mahler's like, I have to go to a composing hut and shut myself away for 12 hours. Don't talk to me, wife.
All right, we're gonna jump into married Alma now.
Yeah.
We're there.
Just let me ravage you one night, get you pregnant, and let me go back to my composing hut because I have to do this.
So
I'm going to do my godly duty.
As a primer on what happens. So Mahler's like, yeah, show me Alex's great music or whatever, right? And then he comes over to listen to her and she plays for him. He goes, yeah, your music is kind of like innocent and immature, blah, 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 blah. And then like they fall in love and they do all this stuff. And then he's just like, if you're going to marry me, you need to support me and my music will be your voice, right? And she goes, yeah, okay, baby. Like your voice is my voice, you know?
He says, well, let's see here. My compositions will be both of ours. He's seen this as romantic, and you're like, okay, like I can see thinking this is a good idea, but us from our modern standpoint is going,
stranger danger.
But he also phrased it as,
what the fuck, red flag.
Yeah.
Right? He also phrased it as, but Alma, you're my muse. You inspire me to write this. Therefore, my music is also music. Like the way that he phrases it, I'm like, ooh, you tricky little devil.
Yeah. The thing, okay, so then I wrote down exactly what it said. It was renounce everything superficial, all vanity and outward show of individuality and work, because he's basically like, you're not modest. You are so full of yourself. You need to give everything up and be my wife, and that's your job. And
And I mean, at that point I was like, oh, you asshole. But
you have a modern mind though.
Well, his relationship with his sister before Alma came over and married him, she practically ran the house for him, right?
Yes.
So she gave him the opportunity to just focus on his music. And that's what he's always been used to. And we're led to believe that at this time, that's what women did. That's what wives did, right? They quote unquote, supported their husbands. Like we realized that actually Alma's mom is actually quite unique. Especially at the end when you realize more and more of her story. Alma's mom is actually quite unique in her situation. And it's not really the same with everyone else. So on the one hand, I was like, I really don't like this guy. On the other hand, I was like, okay, but he is also a product of his environment and his upbringing. And that's what he, at least, hey, you know what? At least he told her exactly what he needed from her.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting though, is that he was expecting her to fill this role and she had been really poorly prepared for this role. So, like, we get these interesting descriptions of her trying to make meals, and she just cannot cook. And it's like...
She even admitted it in this, like, you know, at least, you know, my sister may be in a sanatorium, but at least she took cooking lessons before she got married. Like, she kind of, like, she acknowledged the fact that she's like, I can't freaking do this. I am woefully unprepared. Like, I've tried to make Mahler the meals that he likes, but I am not anything compared to the housekeeper we have. I did not take the cooking lessons. Oh, why did I not take the cooking lessons? Or sewing, or just about anything.
Well, I mean, she was concentrated on her own art, right?
She had her lofty goals too, yes.
Yeah, and I think it sucks because like you go from this like carefree Alma, this like self-doubting Alma to now, oh my God, she's definitely self-doubting, right? Like she couldn't be a composer or an artist, and she can't even be a good wife, right? She goes from like one bad situation to another, but then now she's in a situation in a marriage where she's constantly being reminded that she's inadequate as a wife. She's inadequate and she's inadequate.
Well,
right?
It wasn't as bad until Pootsie passed. Like Mahler kind of glanced over several things. Like she's like, yeah, this could use a little more salt, or this could do this, blah blah. Like it wasn't ever a big issue until she had the miscarriage, and then when Pootsie passed, because he's like, you brought her too soon. she's not well yet. Oh, now she's passed. And I think that's the one that was that big strain. I'm like, is he just gonna like leave her? Is he gonna start screwing his soprano? Like, what's going on? I think that's when he was like, you are now at a point where you are not good as a mother. You feel as a mom because your child died.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, before that, like he, like, you know, while he was composing, make no sound, right? Make no noise whatsoever. Like, you need to be, you know, quiet. Also, read only what I tell you to read. Don't read all the garbage that you're reading.
Don't read Nietzsche.
Yeah, right. And then walk on these walks with me, even though you're sick half the time and you're preggers.
Well, pregnant. Walk this like up this mountain with me.
So like even before like the big incident with the children, I think he was already grading. You know, he was.
I don't think he was perceiving her as an individual. He was just like, you're my wife, and my wife is this person, and he has this sort of like image of what a wife is, but he wasn't really paying attention to who she was. Oh, a pregnant woman shouldn't be going on massive walks? Oh, I never thought of that before. Like, he just didn't have her best interest. He had sort of his interest.
So in a way, Mahler is autistic.
He's not. Oh my goodness. There's so much of the book where almost kind of like this shiny little accessory that he just kind of wants to like dangle along. It's like, oh, I'm going to this party. You need to come with me.
I wonder too if that's a result of her beauty. Because you know how like people, even nowadays, like if you're beautiful, you're not smart.
It's arm candy, right? She was kind of arm candy. But at the same time, like, it took him so long to realize her as a person.
Yeah.
Like all the way until their happiness or whatever, their marriage was threatened at the end. And he's like, oh, I guess I've been a shitty husband because I don't get you anything for Christmas. I don't get you anything for your birthday. I don't give a crap. Like, I didn't ask, are you okay after you had a miscarriage? Like,
yeah. And I think like for me, a lot of it, like I was trying to be like, okay, well, I mean, obviously this guy has no idea how to treat a wife or treat a woman or treat a person in general. But how much of that was the culture of the time, right? Like, because I remember, like, you know, women didn't get a vote in Canada till 1929.
no, I know.
Right? So I'm just like, I'm wondering like how much of that was, I mean, yeah, like upbringing and then nurture and then like the fact that like that's his lifestyle. And then like how much was the culture where like, you know, husband and wife actually talked at that time, actually chatted about things. Like we're seeing this from our 21st century eyes where, right, we have like the chance to discuss and talk about these things. But like, I mean, if none of her friends and even her mother is like, just suck it up, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that was just the culture at the time. And it really sucks that Mahler was an extreme because unfortunately, I don't think Alma could confide in her mother or her sister about how bad Mahler was treating her.
I don't think
until later.
I don't think her sister also could confide. There was a lot of just not talking about things.
But wasn't that what it was?
Bad marriage. They all knew it was a bad marriage, but there was never like, they just danced around it. And then it's like, Alma, she marries Mahler and Mahler's super famous, so they must be happy because he's successful. And then her mother's like, I'm super happy with my second husband. We don't really know about the first.
But isn't that, but you know, like what Kuna was saying, isn't that what it is? It's like the appearance, right? Like why did they, you know, get all bustled up and all that kind of stuff when they went out? It's just for the appearances of everybody's happy. And Alma was, she went out and she's like, look at me, I'm proud director. I have this wonderful life with this wonderful husband who gives me all the stuff that I want. But even her mom later admitted, she's like, I know that you were having a hard time. I know that you were struggling in your marriage. I know that you felt like crap. But
it wasn't her marriage, right? So
yeah, it wasn't her marriage, but the whole I will keep your secret thing. Ooh, sneaky little mother. I started really liking that mom by the end of the book.
Do we want to talk about The Secret?
Oh, I was gonna say one thing quickly before. So, like, I'll say this and then we'll move on. So I think a lot of people, like, if you haven't read the book yet, you'll listen to this relationship with Alma and Gustav, and you're like, holy shit, why didn't she just leave?
Yeah.
The thing was, yes, there's a lot of bad things that were happening in the relationship. They weren't talking and they weren't discussing. But the thing that really kept her there, I think, was the fact that even though Mahler was like just really an asshat of a person, he needed her to listen to his work, to reassure him that things were going okay, and she was giving him insights on stuff. So even though she wasn't having a good time, this was kind of like that little reeling her in kind of thing, right? Like, you can't compose your own stuff, but you can help me compose. And therefore she's like, oh, like he's asking me for all of this insight. Maybe I am a composer. So like, it's like kind of like she's just being led along the entire time.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, he's mean to her and doesn't think about her, but on the other hand, he's emotionally unstable and he's unsure of himself and he needs me there, and I need to help him like go through his music, and only I understand his symphonies, you know?
Yeah. It's
So
kind
I
of
think that's what there was. I was just like that constant like all these things, but there's that one good thing that was holding her and keeping her there, because he needed her. He needed her, and therefore she's like, oh, I need to be there for him, because without me, he's lost, right?
I don't think he intentionally was mean to her. I think he was just oblivious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was like. They both have these insanely large gaps of just common sense and decency that and they're both so innocent in so many ways. Like, Alma really knew nothing about being a wife. Like, watching the marriage between her mom and dad, and then her mom and Carl, neither of them were ideal. Seeing her sister marry this crazy asshole of a man was also not ideal. And then all of her dealings with these guys, none of them were great. Like, Klimt was a womanizer. Like, Zemlinsky would never have been approved because he's Jewish and poor. And then comes this great guy. Oh, this will be automatically great. Oh, wait, I am completely unprepared for this relationship. And Mahler, as they said, like, he had his little dalliances with whoever, but it wasn't like he was ever in a long-term relationship where he would actually go to a point where he proposed to somebody. Because even all those women later were like, we never thought we would see Mahler ever marry. He would never give anything the same dedication, the same as his music. But here you are, you have married him. So they both kind of went in as like, you know, those a stumbling first relationship kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they are nothing of loyal for the most part. It's kind of.
Well, and like, as we move on with this, like, so like at the tail end, like, you know, I can't remember, was he a tenor?
Yeah.
Yes, right? He was a tenor.
Was it Friedrich? No, Ulrich? Ulrich?
Yeah, Ulrich.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, I
run away with me.
I have feelings for you, and Alma's like, oh my goodness, I'm a married woman. But it ignites something in her that she hasn't felt in a very long time, which was just to be loved and to be needed in that way.
But also the guy from the sanatorium.
And then, well, but the sanatorium is way later though. So no, because Ulrich happens, and then they move to New York, and then she sees him there again at the New Year's party or whatever, Christmas party. Yeah. Okay. So this, and the thing is, I don't think he himself was anything special, except for the fact that he was brave enough to tell her how he felt about her, because every man, even though they probably really did like her or whatever, were too scared of Mahler. They were too respectful of Mahler to even mention it, right? So he mentions that he's still afraid of Mahler, right? He's still kind of like revering Mahler to like even, but he finds Alma so like intensely attractive that he has to tell her that, you know, that's how he feels about her, and that he will always admire her from afar. So it kind of like,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. So I mean, I was just gonna set it up like that's what's happening, and they moved to New York because Mahler has fallen out with the Viennese, the Viennese like court and everything, and he takes a job to New York, and they go to New York, and then there at a party, he's there invited, and I think there's like one part where like he wants to listen to her music, and she goes, "Oh my God, he wants to listen to my music," right? And they almost kiss, and then Mahler walks in, and then he stays for food, and then he comes back again, and then like they actually kiss, and then Mahler's like in her room, and he finds out, right?
Yeah, but is it? I don't know, because like with him, is it that he's not even just that he was brave enough, but because she's had other guys who are like, you are so beautiful, you're wonderful, but is it that he actually stood up and be like, you are an amazing woman? The fact that he gave her that not approval, but settling that unease that she has of like, am I still pretty? Can I still compose? Can I do that?
There's two guys, right? So there's Ulrich and then Sanatorium guy, who is an architect.
Guy?
I can't remember his name.
Walter.
Oh,
yes, Walter.
Yeah, Walter. And here's the thing. We don't know what was going on in her brain because this is just a fictional retelling of the series and a series of events. But the one key link to all of the men that she fell in love with, Zemlinsky, Ulrich, and Walter, the three of them all were interested in her music. They all wanted to listen to her music, and they all said, "It's amazing. You should continue doing this. We would love to support you to continue to do this," right? So all three of these men really wanted her to continue to do what she was doing, right? Yeah. And I think that is, like I said, that's how, for me, the book led her towards these men, because they were interested not just in her, because you said like there's a lot of guys that were interested in her, but they were interested in her brain, in her compositions, right? And that's why they were so attractive to her.
But that's what makes it interesting that she married Mahler, because Mahler's like, hey, by the way, you have to give up everything that you want to do before you marry me. So I found that was interesting, because yes, she was so into these guys who wanted her to continue with her composing, but Mahler's the only one that's like, you need to give it up. And she's like, okay, I'll marry you.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's a societal choice, right?
It is. Yeah, I know, but like it's.
And Karen brought it up earlier too. Like, it is something like he is so far above her.
Yes.
That the thought of him even looking at her, right, made her knees quiver, right? That's what it was, right? So for her, it was just like, oh my God, like this giant god of a man wants me, and I'm just this nobody girl, right? So I think for her, it was, at that time, she was just smitten, right? She was infatuated. She was a young girl.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, how many years? Like 15, 14 years difference between?
Big difference, yeah.
Mahler and Alma, like definitely more than a decade.
Yeah, I think she was 25 when she, like 23, 24 when she married him, and he was like in his early 40s.
He was like 41.
Yeah. So, but like I said, like it's just that like I can understand why she married him.
Yeah.
Right? At that time, like, because like who was bigger than Mahler? Right? Who was bigger than Mahler? Like even I mean, like Debussy.
At the tail end, Debussy.
Like Debussy like shat on him, but Debussy wouldn't have loved Alma, right? So I think for her, while at that time when she was younger, Alma, that was the decision that she made, and like that was why. But like she just did it, like she did because she's like, oh man, this man loves me. Okay, fine. This is what it means to love Mahler. I'm going to worship him. I'm going to give up everything. And then she realizes later on that actually this isn't what she wanted. She doesn't want that, right? Yeah.
But it turns into what she does want at the end. Like at the very tail end, she's like, this is that marriage that I've always dreamt of having. And she finally gets it, and then he gets sick and bad things happen.
Well, 'tis life.
Yeah, like it is like kind of fulfilling. It's okay if I jump straight to the end. It is kind of satisfying that by the end she's actually happy with him. She's happy with where her life is. She's happy with where her family is. And it's kind of like just this, how long is this book? Like a 375-page long journey to finally find satisfaction with her life and happiness with her family and the choices that she made. She's finally given, like, you made the right choice.
And you feel like it's almost the springboard to something else. Because if you read the after and you read all the things she does after, it's like, whoa, okay. So it's almost like you got to see the blossoming and the flower.
Yeah. Well, just finding the struggle to get there, right? Yeah. And I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry. I blanked on that one.
That's okay.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think one of the cool things about the journey of Alma, like, first of all, like, the author has already said that she wanted to paint Alma in a more positive light, because unfortunately a lot of historians have painted her in a very negative light, like saying she's wanton and whatever, right? But I think the way that the author wrote this book, she wanted you to see Alma in a way that you're like, oh, she's human. She's struggling. And yes, you know what? There's a lot of stuff that happens to her that if she were just quote unquote smarter, she wouldn't have to deal with. But without dealing with those things, she wouldn't have matured to the person she was at the end of the book, right? Yeah. The only reason why she got to the point where she actually like literally gave Mahler an ultimatum was because of all the stuff that she dealt with up until that point, right? And then you realize once you get to that point, you're like, oh my God, like all those things needed to happen for her to finally realize that she had to fight for herself and she had to stand up for herself, even if it was towards someone as large as Mahler, you know, right? And because of her standing up to him, it gives him an avenue to talk about himself.
Yeah.
Show her his weaknesses and his misconceptions and his misunderstandings, right? And I feel like it's a very powerful book because like in the end, she's the master of her life.
Yeah.
Right. And she gives the ability for her husband to confide in her finally. Right. Like in the end, like I kind of feel like the roles are kind of switched. She becomes the one that he looks up to now. Right. Yeah. Even though it is short-lived and it sucks. Right. But I mean, life is seldom perfect and fair. Right. But I think that's like kind of like the epitome for me.
What's nice about this is that the author is trying to portray her in a way that we can all relate, which
we can
relate 100% to her the whole time. And it's looking at this person's inner monologue and why they might be making those decisions instead of looking at them in relation to Mahler, which is probably what a lot of people did, was here's Mahler and then here's his wife and then here's all the things she did and she's just wanton and she's just like she's wild, she's a muse, she's inspirational, she's like this femme fatale, and you're like, was she though?
No, the way that she
could have been a little bit, but I feel like that's the outward appearance. We're not always getting the internal story.
See, and that word wanton, which okay, in our 21st century minds, when she in the beginning, and even then when she's just like randomly making out with a bunch of guys, I'm like, that seems like dating.
I don't know, it's like par for the course. This is what we do.
Right? Exactly. I'm like, you kiss a lot of frogs so you find your prince, right? But it's true. Like in our 21st century mind, we're like, that's not a big deal, really. Like, how many guys do you kiss when in the span of dating, like, or whatever? Like, a lot of them. But like what Poon said, back and then, you do not kiss anybody. Like, ooh, a peck on the cheek, that is naughty. And the fact that she was like getting practically dry humping Zemlinsky in that like dining room was like a pretty big issue. Did they actually?
They fell upon each other in the opera box.
That's right. They did. I'm like, that was, and I can see how people would be like, wow, she's kind of a slut back then.
She's a young woman who's got blossoming sexuality and society.
We need some sex ed here. We need some sex ed.
And here's the thing. Like, I mean, this book is written in a very, very, really good way for 21st century readers.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can't speak for you two, But for myself, when I read something like this, I do not want it from just one perspective anymore, right? I know that Mahler is a renowned composer. Like every historical book is like, he's amazing, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice to know that he's human.
Yeah.
Well, right? And that he errs. He's at fault. And he makes mistakes, right? So it's nice to be able to see it from that perspective. And the thing was, yeah, like he was an asshole, but like, I mean, like we all know assholes, right? And like for me, it's just like, these are just humans trying to live their lives, trying to make the best choices, constantly doubting themselves, right? Trying to put their best foot forward, trying to love and trying to like mourn the loss, right? Like it's so beautiful in a way. And like these books, like I don't think like, because they were, she was saying, the author was saying how like a lot of the books were written by men, right? Yeah. And scholarly musicologists who obviously would put Mahler up here.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, I mean, think about it. Like we know, for example, Berlioz did a lot of drugs, but do you think like, but you know, like would anyone actually fault him for that? No, because he was an artist. He just did opium. Everyone did opium. I was like, well, everyone does Molly now. Does that make like it okay? No, but like,
right? Yeah, I know.
Like our reverence of these composers are like colored by these historians.
What is it called? It's result driven.
Yeah.
Well, they wrote great music, so who cares how they did it?
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's lovely to be able to read something that is not only compelling to read, but also very well researched. She did a lot of homework. She really went into detail over things, and I was like, this is amazing. It was so nice to read, and I started disliking this character and grew with her to be like, yeah, you go, girl.
But the thing is like you don't, because she even said in the back where she's like, it was hard to find information about Alma Mahler because nobody really, she's technically this, really is just this girl from across the street or whatever that he happened to fall in love with. And it's interesting that she would take her and raise her to a level of prominence that is equal to or above Mahler. Because it'd be so easy to write a book like this and be like, Mahler, 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 Mahler. But to keep that focus on Alma. And the fact that it was written in third and not first person, which was wonderful. I hate reading in the first person. And knowing that, but it read like a first person, even though it was written in third.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I really liked about this. And it was super approachable. And the names that she drops in here, it wasn't like, remember when we read How Music Got Started?
Oh, yeah.
The one with MP3s, and he's like, name, and you're like, okay, you're just trying to fill. But when she drops names, it's kind of like, oh, there's actually a reason why they're here. They went to dinner with Schoenberg and his wife. Oh, Debussy actually really hated Mahler. What?
Yeah.
Like, when she drops these names in, there's actually a relationship as opposed to, by the way, he knew these guys. By the way, he knew this. By the way, he knew this.
It's how did he know these people, and what influence did they have on each other?
Yeah, so it's, you know what, I really appreciated this book. It read like nonfiction, it read like fiction, even though it was nonfiction.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Sorry, like if people wrote composers' bios like this, I would read all of them. Like, could you imagine if my students would ace all history exams?
Yes.
Like, this is just a really well-written book.
Right? And you actually remember all those tiny little characters, like Ulrich took up maybe 10, 15 pages out of this entire book, and you're like, I remember his name.
Mm-hmm.
I remember his name.
Yeah, because like what you said, each character in this book was significant. There was a reason why they were there, right? Yeah. Like even Walter, like the whole thing with Walter, like, I mean, we only get to see like a portion of their relationship, but to go from him kind of reigniting this passion in her to him dumping her because she's still having relations with her husband. but then like seeing that relationship go from she needs him to go, she's like, how dare you judge me? how dare you judge me, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, just from that sanatorium section to there, her character just changes. She becomes a powerful woman now, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so sad that he leaves, but she's in control now.
Yeah.
It's her relationship with her husband. He's just there.
Yeah.
Right.
And even at the end of the book, when Mahler passes, you're kind of like, wait a minute. She is still a young woman. Like, she married Mahler so young. She has so much left. And the fact that he says, you will have more men who will want you.
Yeah.
You can be with them now that I'm passing. And you're kind of like, holy shit, you're right. She's like a decade and a half younger than he is. Like, he may have passed, but she still has a whole other life to live, where she now has the great love, and now she can move on to the other great love, which is her compositions. And she's been given the blessing by this, as you say, Poon, this god of a man, Gustav Mahler. So
and the cool thing is, like, she finally gets a chance to be composer, and I think, like, we don't really get a chance to read past once Mahler's dead, but she becomes a composer. And she doesn't actually have a lot of output. She actually spends the rest of her life supporting other artists, supporting other people, right? And I was like, this is so cool. Like she fights her entire life to finally want to be a composer, and finally she gets a chance to. And instead, she becomes like the matron, right, of everyone, and she supports everyone. She helps finance things and stuff. I was like, this is so cool. Right. Yeah. And she has her lover. She has that crazy one that like dresses as her. Do you remember that one? So like after Mahler's death, like she marries this guy, and then he like dresses up as her because he's like weirdly fascinated with Mahler, and then she dumps him and then marries Walter after, and then they like
you know what, whatever floats your boat, buddy.
Yeah. But like it's so cool. Like it's so awesome. Like, and yeah, I think
it was, you know what, I will admit, out of all the books I've read, this is probably the one where I've actually remembered the most detail, with the gap that I have from when I finished to now when we talk about it. And honestly, you know what? Props to Mary Sharratt. Like, my God, this was a great read. And I'm very much looking forward to reading some other stuff from her now. Because if I'm actually remembering stuff from the beginning of the novel, like, that's significant for me because I read so much, so.
I mean, like, props to Karen for finding this.
Yeah,
also,
good for you, Karen. Holy
sucks
crap.
that like the ratings are so low on Goodreads.
I don't get it. Okay, I wonder if it's because we're biased and we delve into that stuff. Like, remember, it is focused on somebody that could be insignificant for other people, right? Like, we know about Mahler, we know about Alma, we know that when he says, holy crap, this section needs like 18 trombones, we understand, and why that's like, you know, not cool ever. So I don't know. It's kind of more of a niche book.
But I also wonder if it's like this situation where you have a bunch of older readers or musicians who are reading this, and you're like, how dare you shit on Mahler? You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but the other thing too, I think, in some of the reviews that I've read, is that they wanted it to be a bit more complex, I guess. Music.
No, this was great.
Which is, I'm like, you know what? I think it was pretty good, because I don't think I really want it to be too musical, because then it ends up getting too Mahler-like.
Yes, that was the same thing with
The Loser?
No, the one with the Chinese musicians. The one that I picked.
Do Not Say We Have Nothing?
Yes, Do Not Say We Have Nothing. The only complaint was that it was too long or something stupid like that.
So long!
Right? And you're just like, are you guys just picking random things to complain about?
Well, okay, so the issue with that one is just that there was like 1,000,000,001 plot lines, and they all interconnected, but not at the same time. And it jumped back and forth, and and it was
I just think based off of the amount of pages, right? Sub 400 pages, she got a lot in this.
In that 400 page, yes.
It was already complicated enough for the amount of pages. And the thing was, she didn't, like, I think from the get-go, she wasn't planning to chronologue her entire life.
Yeah. And I wonder, too, if there was, like, a little bit more of a want to be that femme fatale that we all hear about, that they wanted to have that person. And then what they got was very like, oh, she's really human and she really struggled. And it was not what people had expected it to be. And so maybe it's just people going in with expectations.
Yeah, that's it. Probably that's it. Like, because I didn't know anything about this person until I read this book, right? And because of that, I didn't have any things like hanging or dangling, being like, oh, I expect this.
No,
so
all we have is the Mahler connection.
Yes.
Where we're like, okay, well, we know who Mahler is, but who's his wife?
Yeah. But even when, like, but you know how sometimes when authors choose one of these small, like, not a smaller character, but not the prominent one, but somebody part of their life, like a wife.
Yeah.
Sometimes you read them and you feel like I'm missing something. There's chunks that I don't get. I actually, a lovely thing was, I didn't feel like that. Like, I read it through and I'm like, I am very satisfied that I know this very large portion of her life. And I don't feel like that I have to go back and be like, but what happened here? What happened here? What happened here?
Because the story wasn't about other people. It was about her.
But she didn't leave out anything. Like, I'm sure she did leave out stuff, but the stuff that she included was just so relevant to that chunk.
And what you said earlier, too, there's not as much information as you would want on her.
Yeah.
Because probably her womanhood. And the only reason why we have as much information on her in the first place is because she was attached to a famous man.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is like most female composers. You think about them, right? Clara Schumann, you had the Robert Schumann, you got Fanny Mendelssohn, you got Mendelssohn, right? Like it's there's the attachment there, and they're more famous because of that connection.
Of the guy. Yeah. I don't know. I gave this book 5 stars. I freaking love this book.
I haven't rated yet. I never rate until we're done. But yeah.
Oh, legit. I gave this book 5 stars easy. I will reread this book.
I can't remember what I gave it. I read it back in September. So
there was, you know what, and that is actually one of the reasons why I always buy mine, is so that I hold off until about 3-4 weeks before and see if I can finish it then.
Yeah, I thought I was timing it correctly because it just came out and the library was ordering it. And I put it on hold, and then it was like, boom, here you go. And I'm like, no. Like, crap. Wait, like 2 more weeks.
And but it's, you know what? It's just so good. It's just so good. This is actually the top of all the ones that I've read. This is the one that I've liked the most so far.
Yeah, this one, and for me, like, Do Not Say We Have Nothing.
Yeah.
And there was another one. But yeah, Strings of Murder was fun.
Strings of Murder was fun. Yes.
But speaking about 5 stars, I mean, my pick is not going to be a 5 star. But it's my pick next time. And I'm going to tell, so the girls don't know what it is, but the book is called Mozart's Blood by Louise Marley. Do you want me to read the book description for you?
Yes, please.
All right.
Wait, who?
Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Not yet. Let them read it first.
No. I just want to know the author, so I'm writing this down.
Oh, I'll tell you later. So this is the book description. As a young soprano in the 18th century, Octavia Voss was bitten by a vampire patroness during a sexual tryst with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and was imbued with the essence of his astonishing musical gifts. Since then, Octavia has enjoyed several careers as a celebrated soprano, taking on new identities to disguise her ageless beauty, and acquiring an assistant and companion in Ugo, a mysterious man who possesses a secret of his own. Together, they travel the world for her performances at all the great opera houses. But during a run at La Scala, Octavia draws the attention of a secret vampire hunter who would do anything to make her talents his own.
Oh my God,
I found it!
What is happening?
I'm so happy.
Oh my God.
So we're reading this at Christmas time, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Amanda.
Yeah, we got it.
Guys, I spent the entire 3 or 4 months looking for this. It's been a while. There was another book.
Do you have a book cover that?
Oh, it's like a girl like this, like holding her body like that. It's great. It's great.
Okay,
It's amazing.
Mozart's Blood,
Yeah.
Louise Marley.
Yeah. Just look at the book cover.
Super excited.
I'm trying to get there.
Oh,
Oh my god. Okay, how do I share screen here? There's got to be a way I can share screen. How do I share?
I can do it for you, I think. Yeah. Here you go. You can, oh wait. I'm sharing you, but you have to share your screen.
Oh, okay, here you go. You see it?
No.
Okay, wait, there's a way that I can do this.
you're beautiful.
I don't know. I forgot how to do this. Wait.
We did it last time, didn't we?
I know I did it last time.
I think you just click on your thing and then go like present screen or something. Like on your actual like square.
What square? This
Like-
square?
Yeah, in the actual thing. So if you click on you, right? Like hover over your own video feed, it'll say you, and there's a drop-down menu. It should say like present screen or whatever.
Ooh, that's not it. Oh,
It's
here you
okay.
go.
No?
No, here it is. This one. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there it is.
Cover.
Blood. She looks like pink.
It took me forever, but I found it.
There you go. There is Mozart's Blood by Louise Marley.
That is super exciting.
Dang, Poon.
So there you go, guys. I know we've been
Awesome.
reading a lot of like heavy things, and I was like, I wanted to find something nice and light. So there you go. It was actually between this. So this is vampire music, and actually found a fantasy music as well.
Oh my goodness.
It's called War for the Oaks. I was gonna read that one, pick that one, but this one was just so much more compelling.
Okay. I might have my choice already.
Ooh.
It was recommended to me. It is nonfiction, but it should be a fun nonfiction.
Nice.
Mostly because I've been reading a lot of romance, and it was recommended to me by some thing. I assume Goodreads.
But anyways, guys, that is my pick for next time. Karen, thank you so much for choosing Ecstasy. It was such a fun read.
Yay. I'm very pleased that we all very much enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. So I will link everything in the YouTube video and in the Facebook page for everyone, and like for all the update coming stuff. We'll figure out a date between the three of us later on.
Cool.
Maybe we can even do like a meet. I don't know if Karen's planning. Are you planning to go to the mainland for for Christmas?
We're still planning, so
We'll figure it out. All right, guys, thank you so much.
We'll be in Victoria for New Year's. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. I don't know
We'll figure it out.
but
We'll figure
I'm
it out.
usually in North Van for New Year's.
oh shit. Okay. Oh, we
You know
tried
what?
this last year.
It's okay. Maybe we can always just do it like online if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this works.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.